Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Imagine a ship adrift in the Atlantic. No crew, no signs of struggle, and no explanation. The Mary Celeste set sail in 1872, with 10 people on board, bound for Italy. A month later, it was found floating aimlessly. Food and water were untouched. Personal belongings were intact, but the crew was gone. Lifeboats were missing, but there were no signs of violence or a storm. To this day, no one knows what happened. Was it pirates or something more sinister? Some say they were abducted by aliens. Others believe they fell victim to the Bermuda Triangle. The truth remains one of history's greatest mysteries.
Okay, so as much as I want to say yes, 100% it was aliens, there was a lifeboat missing. So I have to rule out aliens on this one. It breaks my heart, it really does. But with the lifeboat missing, any number of things could have happened, and I think that's a fantastic mystery.
The worst stench in history, which caused people to lose their lives due to its toxicity, is known as the Great Stink of London, occurring in 1858. At that time, the English capital experienced exponential growth, doubling its population in the last 50 years. The excrement of all these people ended up in the River Thames, which runs through London, resulting in a perpetual foul smell in the city. However, in the fateful summer of 1858, the situation became critical. A strong heat wave reduced rainfall, causing the River Thames to drop and exposing everything thrown into it to float. Human waste, dead animals, and even barrels of industrial waste fermented in the sun's heat. In addition to the horrendous smell, this filth transmitted cholera and typhoid fever through the water, making people sick and claiming lives. Consequently, local authorities appointed Joseph Bazalgette to devise a plan to revitalize the sewage system, laying the groundwork for what we now understand as modern urban planning.
And what actually preceded that was the invention of flush toilets. People started getting flush toilets and everything was just going into the Thames, which is terrible. That's awful. I couldn't imagine that. That's a foul odor and ew. Ew.
I was curious. The answer makes sense. Watch. Point 1. They could manipulate energy to intensify the already existing electromagnetic fields of the Earth. There's a hard candy shell around the Earth made of rock. It's called the lithosphere. There's magnetic stuff in there. We can measure that. But the Earth also has Big Daddy magnetic field. That guy interacts with the sun. When they make out, you get the aurora. When there's enough charge up there, lightning discharge balances it out. The higher you go, the more electricity is up there, the easier it is to discharge. Giza is almost the exact center of the landmass of the Earth, meaning it's connected to the most land. It is also a scale harmonic in the exact dimensions of the Earth. It also interacts with radio waves. We bounce radio waves off the ionosphere. There's a study done on radio waves' interaction with the pyramid. The radio waves cause the pyramid to focus electromagnetic energy into the ground. A month ago, we discovered that there are plasma bubbles above the pyramid. I made a whole video on that one. All of this could influence weather patterns and stimulate the piezoelectric effect. If you happen to compress a crystal, electricity gets released. There are certain materials that have high quartz content, which is a crystal, like granite and limestone, that the pyramid's made of. In a seismically active region, this could generate electricity. That could create a localized ecosystem influencing the hydrological cycle around the pyramid, which is the next point.
I totally believe that it was advanced civilizations that built the pyramids, not the Egyptians, and I think that they knew stuff that we don't know now, and they were taken out in the last reset, and that's why the pyramids are there, and they're such a great mystery. But yeah, it would be great to do something about it. Figure out how those bad boys work and get them going.
What you're looking at, first of all, are the multitude of, when you get into this non-physical area of being, states of being, the first thing you encounter, of course, is what we call the belief system territories, where one is attracted automatically after they exit here by this phasing process because it's something familiar to them. And these are, of course, all of the various religions have a belief system that creates a state of being in this non-physical area, this non-physical part of this consciousness continuum. I know it sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but it's very simple.
Does that mean that if you are a Christian, you will come across saints and perhaps Jesus the Christ, etc.?
All of that, yes. That is one large part of this consciousness spectrum.
All right, now
So
that
is
is
Buddhism, so is Islam, all sorts of it.
now, and then you're saying to me that there are people who do not have belief systems. Let's say, for example, an atheist or an existentialist.
No, they don't have to be that. They just
All right.
their intellect grows to a point where that's not enough. Would you like to spend all eternity lying on a cloud and strumming a harp?
Absolutely not.
Well, if you can get, and there are a lot of people more people than you would care to think, that are not, let's call it, entrapped in belief systems, then I get around to the basis of what's so stimulating and exciting about the out-of-body experience and becoming proficient at it. You realize there are a myriad of other options, and most of them make the belief systems look rather silly. Those options are so broad and so detailed. I can give you option number one, which is a very, very common one, and that's to recycle and have another lifetime here. All of us do that many, many times because we have become addicted to being human. We like to eat, we like the sexual drive, we like the excitement, the fun of it, and all the process of being human we like so much that we got to come back and have more. And there's no law that makes you do that. That's the important part. It's you that wants to do this.
So people who say you have to come back because of your karma, you can undo your karma in other places.
And you don't need to undo it. You can undo it yourself by a simple twist of your thinking, that's all. And but you see, that is an option to come back. And each of us probably does that several thousand times.
There was so much information in that clip, so it made me initially feel like we create our out-of-body experience based on what we want it to be. So if you are religious, you would see your deity, and if you are not, there's something else there. Well, that's interesting. I mean, it's not like saying that you have to not believe in a deity. It's just saying that perhaps it's created in your own mind. But the fact that we can use that experience to create another existence, basically a reincarnation, that's incredible. So like that out-of-body experience perhaps is just having another life of another being at the same time. What? Okay, there's a lot. There's too much. It's exploding my brain right now.
The ether was once thought to be the fifth element, filling the cosmos and permeating all things. Modern science discarded it, but in esoteric traditions, ether remains the invisible matrix in which all energy and matter exists. It is beyond physical form, yet provides the substance from which form arises. To contemplate the ether is to touch the invisible fabric of reality, where all boundaries dissolve.
I feel like for generations we've been trained to ignore the fact that this exists. Obviously, because they want you to go to the doctor to get their medication, to pay them your monies when you could just tap into the ether yourself and heal in a lot of cases. I, of course, am under that guise of it can't be done. I'm slowly breaking through, though. I'm starting to feel, I guess, more alive, really. If you're feeling alive, would you do me a huge favor and hit that like button for me? And if you haven't already, won't you consider subscribing? And then come on back, 'cause I'm making a new episode every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Last week I had asked a question and nobody said yes or no, so I'm going to play that clip that I really liked, and I hope you enjoy it.
Helios Flight 522 was a ghost flight, meaning that none of the 121 people on board were conscious. The plane was flying itself. This is how that happened in the desperate attempt to save their lives. The aircraft was a Boeing 737-300 flown by a budget, no-frills Greek Airlines, but it was a troubled plane. In the past 2 weeks, it had had 7 instances of problems with the controls for the environmental system inside the plane. The most recent was just the previous flight when there were reports that the aft door seal was frozen and there were loud noises coming from it. So a team of engineers took it apart, put in a new seal. They needed to make sure that that seal would hold, so they pressurized the plane on the ground. To do that, they had to go to this control panel and switch it from automatic, which means that the plane would automatically pressurize, to manual, meaning that they were overriding that. It passed, and after the test, they were supposed to switch that back to automatic, but they didn't. That meant that this opening on the side of the plane, which allowed air to escape, was left open. So when the plane climbed and tried to pressurize itself, it couldn't because that extra pressure was just vented outside of the plane. There are 3 times during the pre-checklist that this should have been checked, but it was missed each time. And one of the main reasons is because the light that said that it was on manual was green, whereas most of the times warning lights are yellow or red. I expected that the pilots just looked over at the light, saw that it was green, and thought everything was okay, instead of reading that it said manual on it. They took off with 115 passengers and 6 crewmen on board. As they climbed, the amount of oxygen in the cabin decreased. When they passed 10,000 feet, that's as high as a plane should fly without supplemental oxygen. At 12,000 feet, an alarm inside the cockpit went off. But the problem was the alarm for low pressure was the exact same sounding alarm as was used for the environmental control problem they've been struggling with for weeks. So the captain just assumed it was the other problem, not a new one. Instead of descending to where the altitude was safe, he kept climbing and simply called his company to get a mechanic on board to help him deal with this other problem. At 14,000 feet, those air masks in the cabin deployed and the passengers put them on. Now there's an alarm inside the cockpit, but that's a light. And they were looking down somewhere else and didn't see that that light had gone on, which means they also didn't realize they had to put on their own masks that don't automatically deploy. At 16,000 feet, a mechanic on the ground got on the intercom with them, and they started to explain the problems with the environmental control, but they kept climbing. At 18,000 feet, the mechanic, who had worked on the plane before, realized what the problem might be and said, "Are you on manual instead of automatic on the pressurization?" But the problem is the pilots were by then suffering from hypoxia, meaning that their brain wasn't functioning properly, and they couldn't transition from what they thought the problem was to what the mechanic was telling him the problem was. And so they kept talking about the environmental controls, never checking to see if that was on manual. At 28,900 feet, they lost all radio contact with the plane. 34,000 feet, the automatic pilot leveled the plane off and flew it towards Athens, Greece. When it got there, the automatic pilot saw that it had flown by the airport, and so put it into an automatic holding pattern, flying in circles. Thinking that this could be a terrorist event, the Italian military sent up 2 F-16 planes. And when the pilots got there, they could see the passengers unconscious with the gas mask over their mouth. Those only last for 12 minutes, and they've been flying for almost 2 hours. They checked on the pilot, only one was there, and he was slumped over. The other one had gotten up at some point and fallen and collapsed on the floor. Then the pilots saw something amazing. In 2 hours and 10 minutes since they lost radio contact with the plane, they saw somebody enter the cockpit. It was one of the flight attendants who had a different oxygen source that could last longer. And it turned out that that flight attendant had a pilot's license. But that was for small planes. This was a complex Boeing 737-300. The flight attendant climbed into the captain's seat, and the F-16s desperately tried to get their attention, but he was too busy looking around and didn't realize that they were there. Instead, he put the plane into a shallow dive. The whole time he was looking at different things. They could see that. And he was probably trying to figure out how the radio worked, but he couldn't. 1 minute after he started to descend, engine 1 flamed out. They were starved of fuel. They were running out of gas. He managed to get the plane down below 10,000 feet where there was more oxygen. But the problem was it would take a long time for the plane to cycle that extra air into the plane. When he reached 7,000 feet, engine 2 ran out of gas. He was falling. The plane was near the ground with no way to climb, and the flight attendant had no idea how to get back to an airport. And to make matters worse, they were over a populated area. So the flight attendant did the only thing that he could do. He pointed the plane away from the people and flew it into a mountain. All 121 people on board were killed, but thanks to his quick thinking, only the people on board died. 22 of them were children. The Greek government brought criminal charges against 10 employees at the company, 6 of whom were convicted and sentenced to 10 years.
I know it's not a conspiracy theory, but it was a very interesting story, and my heart goes out to those people. How horrifying that must have been over one little misstep. And we've had a few of them lately, and they have been absolutely devastating. And my heart goes out to those people and the families of those lost.
Watch this video with me because the moon right now is beginning to rust. Let's go ahead and watch this video.
Did you see how the moon is rusting?
I've heard about it.
So there's this kid that took the most high quality picture of the moon ever taken. Over like 2,000 images that he combined. And you can clearly see that the moon is rusting. And then I saw this on NASA. Research indicates the presence of hematite, a form of rust that normally requires oxygen and water. This has scientists puzzled. Hematite is a name that is derived from the Greek word meaning blood.
All right.
Joel
crazy.
2, it says, "The sun shall be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the great and awesome day of the Lord comes. And it shall come to pass that everyone who calls in the name of the Lord shall be saved."
That's weird.
It's throughout scripture, the moon turning to blood, and like, what does that mean? So like the Bible, it was ultimately translated into Greek at one point, right? And the Greek word for blood is hematite, the same word that they use for this rust.
Yeah.
And so it's like the moon has hematite on it.
Yeah.
That's weird. It's all gonna end soon, see you better.
End times is coming, my friend.
As a non-religious person, I'm going to go ahead and give you my conspiracy brain take on all of this. So there are theories that the moon is a giant ship, and it was brought in thousands and thousands of years ago to watch this human experiment on our tiny little planet. Now, what if the moon is rusting and the end times is when the aliens come back to do something about it? I don't know. Just a little conspiracy brain action going on there.
They don't know what they are. Investigative agencies are telling me they have no explanation for these objects.
Ain't no way those are planes, dude. Planes with afterburners with no sound.
These anomalous objects are being seen all the time, right across the world, and especially across military installations in the United States. There's been reports recently of anomalous objects hovering over some of the most sensitive nuclear weapons facilities on the US East Coast. They describe objects that are 5 feet wide. In some cases, they appear to be changing their shape. They're doing all sorts of weird, anomalous things. These things never left the skies. There are still hundreds of them every night over these neighbourhoods. The government's got no answers. So if somebody from the neighbourhood was putting up just a standard drone, they've been doing it very cleverly because the best resources of the US military and government have been unable to catch them.
Yes, I am well aware that what's-her-face lady came out and said, hey, this is what they are, but I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Because why wouldn't they have just said that months and months ago? And why did the military need all of this money in the stopgap bill to spy on us, right? When there's stuff flying around the airports? I know I'm a broken record about this, but I am just in my core. I know that there is something else going on, and they're not going to tell us because it's got to be big. I can't let it go. I don't believe it. There's something going on.
Pyramids making plasma bubbles now. Wait till you hear this. So China has this massive radar that can pretty much scan half the planet at one time. It's called LARID, Low Altitude Long Range Ionospheric Radar. It's just this, but way bigger. And it detects plasma. Now, it's actually not a bubble of plasma over the pyramids. It's a lack of plasma over the pyramids, a void of plasma. They also all include a picture of the pyramids and don't talk about them at all in the articles. Why do we care? Plasma is not only the fourth state of matter, it is the mother of all matter. Stars are balls of plasma. When they supernova, they create everything else from plasma through nuclear fusion. So we could say from the Tao there comes one. From that one comes three. And from the three comes all things. That's actually from the Tao Te Ching, ancient China flexing a little bit. Speed round. Plasma is charged photons or loose electrons. It is the visible form of electricity and fire. It doesn't care about you, it'll go through you like a spicy ghost. When high voltage plasma goes through a pyramid, it comes out in a helix. When radio waves like LARID interact with a pyramid, it focuses electromagnetic energy into the earth. So what you're seeing isn't the pyramids blowing a hole in the atmosphere. The research suggests it's vortexing into the earth. If you know anything about Tesla's work, you'll know why this is insane. Tesla's wireless power wasn't through the air, it was through the earth through something called xenic waves. These waves can even travel over things on the earth. They're very real. A funny thing happens when these waves interact with water. They create something called exclusion zone water. This fourth phase not only removes impurities through the bond structure, it significantly increases crop yield, and the water acts like a battery holding the charge of that plasma in it. This technique is being funded and used by the EU today. Now, if only the pyramids interacted with water somehow. I could talk about this all day, but unfortunately, my time here is up. But I do have some resources for you if this is your type of thing. And if you want to chat about these tombs, we do all the time in the mystery school. Go read those articles, though. They don't mention the pyramid at all. It's the most clickbaity thing I've ever seen in my life.
Now, I know a lot of you that watch my show are way smarter at this stuff than I am, and the science here doesn't do things in my brain because I don't understand it. But it sounds like it could be very beneficial for us, and we're not going to do it because there's too many corporations making too much money off of the stuff that we have in place now.
I'm going to show you guys more proof that they're here and they're all around us. Here's one of many Dior bags coming in and out of the firmament, not your regular UFO UAPs. If you look down below, you can see literally crop circles are appearing everywhere. They're circular, they have weird shapes. Follow, because I'm going to go around the whole entire city showing you guys all of these crazy things. Even if you look into the sky, you think those are clouds? No way. Those things are changing shapes every couple of minutes. Look at that one. Look at that. Obviously flat on the bottom. Something landed in my backyard last night. This is my yard right here from the top view. It left a crop circle. It's really creepy. I have no idea what's going on. But what's creeping me out also is this cloud right here. This one was up here a little while ago and it was a different shape, but the bottom always stays flat. Am I being crazy or just something really going on? Follow, because I'm going to show you guys more proof that aliens are here all over around us. One last thing is these little holes, they started appearing everywhere. That's not normal in my yard. I got these little holes growing everywhere. What is going on here?
Oh my goodness, there are crop circles that look exactly like that, just a block away from my house. This guy's so funny, I love it.
So for all the big pharma haters, let me show you something that I think you guys will find very, very interesting and very, very eye-opening. These are all the supplement companies in the world, all right? Every single supplement company is owned by, oh, look at this, a pharmaceutical company. Big Pharma owns all of these. So you guys are like, oh, I'm just going to take my natural remedies and my supplements. I don't want to support Big Pharma. Guess what? You are lining the pockets of Big Pharma. These are billion-dollar, trillion-dollar industries. I'm just going to move away. You can take a look at this. Big Pharma owns Big Supplement. Take a look. Pause the video. This is who you're supporting when you don't want to support great medications that actually work and cost pennies a day.
I wish I had an awesome graphic to show how they have their hands in our food supply as well, because if you say I'm going to stop taking all of these, supplements and just get my vitamins from the food, majority of our food is genetically modified and probably by those same people, because the FDA regulates themselves and they can do whatever they want with your food. And that's a freaking shame. We should be able to nourish ourselves without all of their money being considered. All right, let's check out part 3 of that 4-hour tape thing. I know I was supposed to play it on Friday, but on Thursday I realized it was my 1-year anniversary and I had to shift gears a little bit. And it has been an absolutely fantastic year. Thank you all so much for sharing this journey with me. It's been eye-opening to say the least, and I'm looking forward to the next year and beyond.
I just wanted to recap some ground rules. You're allowed to get up and grab another snack, but beyond that, we want you to pay full attention to the tape once it starts playing. If any of you need to go to the bathroom, we strongly urge you to wait until the presentation is over. If you absolutely have to go, we will pause the tape and one of us will escort you. There is water in the corner by the snacks, cups are right there as well, and goes without saying, but any discussion of this presentation to folks who do not have top compartmented clearance is a breach of your terms of employment, a breach of your non-disclosure agreement, a breach of your multiple signed releases, a breach of the U.S. Criminal Code in the state of, redacted, and a breach of the conditions laid out by the Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness. They started dimming the lights. Fuck. It felt like I had missed any window of opportunity. I had to leave. Too late. That committee name he highlighted sounded way above my clearance level. One of the men at the front of the room pulled out a VHS tape from a bag, and very slowly and securely put it into a VHS player. He pressed play. I took a deep breath. Those water-cooler conversations I'd had with my coworkers were starting to float to the top of my mind, but I quelled them. There was probably no need for panic. It was just a stupid government meeting, right? The tape started. The beginning was familiar enough. Various disclaimers about this being incredibly confidential material, yada yada yada. Insignias of relevant organizations, presidential libraries, etc. I'd seen lots of videos like this already. But wait. That insignia looked strange. Like something was off. I scanned it. Presidential libraries. That same eagle. Those same stars. Weird. This time, there was a navy blue hand on the left shoulder of the eagle. Did they update the logo? Before I had time to ruminate on it too much, the tape cut to a logo I had actually never seen before. Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness. The logo was just an image of planet Earth. Fair enough. The video cut to a room that looked similar to the Congress floor, but with some strange differences. Seats were much more spaced out, the podium looked like it had seen better days, and the whole room looked to be on a pretty steep incline. Everything was in black and white. It looked like there were about 50 people in attendance. It was hard to make out the faces. Everything looked very dated, like the video was from the 40s or the 50s. The tape lingered on this one shot for quite a while. Minutes passed. I noticed what looked to be a choir, all in outfit and perfectly huddled next to each other, standing in one of the corners of the room. It really felt like I shouldn't have been seeing this. None of this was meant for my eyes.
Well, they sure are taking an awful long time getting to the juicy stuff. I'm excited. I still want to know what's going to happen. We're already 3 parts in, so that's the point of no return. We're going to finish it. There's still 3 more episodes to go. I hope you come back to check them out. On that note, I'm calling it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Please come on back in a couple of days. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day. So it's a little difficult for me to get on board with that whole biblical explanation for the moon turning red. Okay. So how the moon was brought in like thousands of years ago, because it's a ship, right? Oh my gosh, okay. I have a better theory.